of sustainable fishing gears, nets, where we have partnered with the Kenya Red Cross and the NRT, and over 1,000 farmers have surrendered their nets, which actually end up catching the very small fish. So we have given them more sustainable fishing nets. The other thing, we have given our fisherfolk boats and fishing gears. And this, you have, the lady speaker has mentioned about partnering with other entities, and through Go Blue project, through KESAP, and through KEMSFED, we have managed to give our fishermen boats, and which has helped them to go out to fish. We have also developed our landing sites. These had been ignored, and we have put up infrastructure such as fish processing plants, ice plants, cold stores, and markets. We also support and invest in mariculture, crab farming. We have a group who rear crabs. We supported them by giving them cages and more training, and we want to replicate the same across the county. And I must mention here that we are in the process of developing a prospectus for investment opportunities in crab farming with the support of USAID KUZA. Also, we are establishing a Lamu Maritime and Innovative Center to offer marine-related courses. That's on the way, and I must say we have received great support from the national government through the CS Honorable Mburia. You know, Kenya, we have had issues regarding land grabbing, and our landing sites for fish had been grabbed. We are in the process of repossessing them, and in Lamu, I already have about 4 title deeds of fishing sites that have been grabbed. And as support for women on blue economy, on mariculture, I have a very a group of women who I'm very proud of. They're rearing octopuses, and we are supporting them, and also we support women who are involved in planting mangroves and also collecting plastic waste and turning it into. So with those, I think there's a lot of things and potential
Sounds like
in the
it.
blue economy, but time is not there.
No.
Thank you very much.
Unfortunately. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. It's great to hear that Lamu has a diverse work that you've done in the blue economy. And one specific highlight initiative you highlighted was that of the Go Blue, supported by the EU delegation that we know is in the room. So over to you, Cabinet Secretary Mburia. The question we have for you is, what role has government played in promoting equitable distribution and addressing social and economic inequalities, even highlighted by His Excellency in the blue economy sector? Noting that when you launched the blue economy strategy, you highlighted that we're using less than 10% of our blue economy resources. How then is national government supporting sustainable exploitation?
Thank you very much, our moderator, and also the chair of the session, the chair of the Committee on Blue Economy, and our audience out there. I think, first of all, what I want to say is that the blue economy sector, which now we are discussing, is a fairly new topic in our country. Until 2018, when we had the International Conference on Sustainable Blue Economy, before then, we were not very focused. So I want to thank His Excellency the President that in this new administration, a blue economy has been given a prominent role to inspire the economy. And if you look at the blue space, which cuts across the Indian Ocean, our rivers and our lakes, they are a host of opportunities. And therefore, as a ministry, we are really focused on working with county governments to make sure that we align the national priorities, the county priorities, and that blue economy finds space to inspire the economy and provides equity in economic growth. For example, the sectors that have been mentioned by His Excellency the Governor of Lamu, the fisheries sector. If you look at the fisheries sector, it's a sector which has existed in all our areas, in the Indian Ocean and in the lakes. But you see, the participation of local communities has been moving to the fisheries sector traditionally. And that is why, as a ministry, we are working with the county governments to make sure that we are able to bring in more players in that sector. We are also bringing women in a big way so that they can be able to invest in the blue economy sector. But away from fisheries, we also know that in blue economy we have tourism, beach tourism. It could also be tourism in the lakes, which has not also found an opportunity to be properly exploited. So we want to work with county governments to make sure that we also inspire that particular area. There are also other areas that have received little attention in the blue economy, the areas of renewable energy, the areas of biotechnology, the areas of seabed mining. So there are quite a number. So I think, in a nutshell, what we are doing as national government is to make sure that we work closely with county governments. We are able to understand their priorities. We align the priorities with those of Kenya Kwanza to make sure that those at the bottom of the pyramid find an opportunity to grow their incomes in the blue economy sector. And that is why, for example, in the Indian Ocean, artisanal fishing has been done over the years. But now we want to support the fishermen to go a little deeper so that we can encourage industrial fishing. And we look at the entire value chain so that the fisherman is not just fishing and they don't have a market, but we also make provision for an opportunity for value addition. And that is why the landing sites, as mentioned by Governor Timame, become the first unit for value addition. And together with the county governments, we have been able to map out the key areas that we are able to do those kind of infrastructure, all the way from Lamu, in Mokoe, in Kipini, Tana River, and in that area between Kipini and Ngomeni, we have we have a bay which is called Ungwana Bay. Ungwana Bay provides a perfect habitat for prawn farming and shrimp farming, because on one end in Kilifi, we have River Sabaki, which provides an estuary, and Tana River around Kipini, which provides an estuary. And this basically means there is a transition of river and marine waters. That kind of environment provides an opportunity for investment in mariculture. And as we move again, in Kilifi, we have Ngomeni landing site. Kichwa Chakati has been opened, which provides a model. And there are many more, also in Lake Victoria, where our chair is the governor. We have Mulukoba, we should be opening soon. We have others in Kisumu, Ogal, and Asat. Then Migori, we have Sori and Nyandiwa in Homa Bay, and Wichlum in Siaya, and also Luanda Kotieno, as well as looking at the potentials in Lake Turkana and Lake Naivasha. So we are working with the county governments to inspire all those areas. But before I give you the other opportunity, I want to thank our partners, the EU here represented by the EU ambassador, for the partnership. IFAD here represented by our keynote speaker, and also World Bank and a number of other partners who have come forward to work with us on matters blue economy. And as we speak, we are finalizing other key policy documents to make sure that we provide leadership and work with counties to streamline this particular sector. Thank you for now.
Thank you,
I will
Cabinet
come back
Secretary.
with many other issues.
Asante Waziri.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we appreciate that you've actually aligning more closely with counties as well as additional development partners, as highlighted by yourself, and as well as investors who are seated in this panel. But I'll hand over to you now, Senator. I was warned by our chair, by the way, that speakers are requested to keep their notes to 5 minutes because of our time limitation. I could not ask certainly the chair nor our CS for the same limitation, but I'm going to kindly request for the next panelist speaker. So, Senator Faki, I know that we shared a question with you with regards to the Natural Resource Benefits Sharing Bill. But we'd like to shift the question just a little bit in terms of what the strategies Senate has started adopting to ensure sustainable exploitation in recognition of the work that national and county level, who are your counterparts, are doing in the blue economy. Over to you, Senator.
Thank you. The Natural Resources Benefit Sharing Bill of 2022 is currently in the third reading, where we are allowed to make amendments so that it can be in line with the issues that we collected during public participation and what the bill actually was before it was presented to the House. And we have made several amendments that will be key in ensuring a sustainable exploitation and sharing of the benefits of the blue economy resources. The amendments that we are making is one, provision for the Commission on Revenue Allocation to coordinate the preparation of benefit sharing agreements, facilitating the sharing of the blue economy benefits or resources between counties and investors. Currently, we didn't have that framework. Secondly, we have also empowered CRA through legislation to determine the royalties payable for the exploiting the blue economy resources. Number three, that KRA that will be collecting the royalties will be paying the same to the Natural Resources Royalties Fund as determined by SCRA, that is the Commission on Revenue Allocation, with 80% of the revenue collected being the national government and the county governments in the share of 40 to 60. So that the national governments will be retaining 40% and the county governments will be taking 60%. The provisions further mandate CRA to promote a sustainable ecosystem restoration after the exploitation of the blue economy resources. So currently, that is the legal framework that we are considering. Last year, but one, we had regulations published by the then Minister for Agriculture, I think, and Fisheries, which were dealing with the exploitation of the fisheries in the blue economy. We had a sitting with the then chair of the blue economy, retired General Madede, and his team, and we went through the regulations. There were some issues that they were raised, which were supposed to be considered and be brought back to the House. However, they haven't published the regulations again, and I think the CS blue economy should also be able to address us on the issue, because it is very important to have a legal framework in terms of regulations. At the moment, we see there isn't much. The regulations that have been there have been made through I think the Fisheries Act, some of which might be obsolete. Thank you.
Thought Senator would continue, and I think that's a question to you, CS, when we now come around. But if you feel like you can answer the question now, since he's given you a challenge with regards to those regulations. Over to you, Cabinet Secretary.
Yeah, we have reviewed all the 8 regulations, because when we looked at them in the beginning, even though they had been done earlier, they missed out on key areas that we wanted them to address. So we have already done the review and participation, and we've submitted them to the Attorney General.
Congratulations, yes. Senator, does that answer your question? Yes. Very good. So over to Dr. Matano from the Kenya Devolution Program. We just wanted to ask you, when looking at the activities that have been happening over the Devolution Program, how have you seen collaboration with development partners with the 2 levels of governments in particular, considering that blue economy is under the remit of our counties, and how have those been coordinated, what efforts have been made, and as well as this avoidance of duplication of interventions in the sector, especially towards private sector investment?
Thank you so much, Madam Moderator. Thank you for the senators and the governors for the articulated statement that you have given. I will perhaps start my response by just mentioning a few things so that we are at the same wavelength. And
5 minutes, Dr.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful.
One of them, of course, as the CS has said, blue economy or blue sector is a very nascent, sector in this country. And just speaking from what His Excellency said this morning, I picked some 2 issues. One, and Governor Otuoma has already alluded to that, the need to do things differently. The second one is, of course, our eye in the next 10 years. And this has been very well articulated in the Vision 2030, especially on the 4th MTP, where we want to go. And since the theme of this panel session has to do with the potential of blue economy, allow me to take just 1 minute to articulate that indeed the blue economy has a very huge potential. At this point, we may not see it, but in the next 10 years, we will see it. I was even reading the strategy that was launched by His Excellency Salim Vuria, and you can see where we are moving, because an estimation has been given that in the next 10 years, through blue economy, we will be able to raise about 600 billion Kenya shillings and create jobs, approximately 53,000 jobs within the country. And these are the focus that we are looking at. But basically, coming back to your question, having worked at the East African Community, which is a regional integration body, and because of the nature of blue economy, there are so many sectors. His Excellencies have mentioned fisheries. We have sectors like maritime transport. We have even ports. There are so many activities because ideally, blue economy is basically activities, sustainable activities around water bodies. And number two, my perception that I'm going to give is based on the inland waters. Previously, we have looked at blue economy from an oceanic point of view. But now we are expanding our scope to inland waters. And perhaps that is the area that I'm going to focus on in answering your question. But to be able to do that, I'm not really going to give a whole system on how the intergovernmental relationship is, but I'm going to give a classical example. Through the British High Commission, FCDO, that is Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, they have been supporting Kenya, the counties, through their program, the Kenya Devolution program, to improve the harnessing of blue economy. This project has gone for the few years, and now they are going into the second phase. And there has been a lot of lessons learned. But I'll give an example as a successful story on how coordination is done, both at the county level and between governments. This program, what has happened is that we work through the Lake Region Economic Bloc, and His Excellency, the Governor, has said that these are very important tools. I know even Jumuiya is also there. And these are the special purpose vehicles that are going to ensure that counties harness blue economy. How does it work at the Lake Victoria, the Lake Region? The Lake Region Economic Bloc counties did establish what is called a memorandum of collaboration between the counties. And within that collaboration, they included MDAs, the ministry, department, and agencies, and they signed a memorandum of collaboration to support harnessing of blue economy. And within that, they went further and they developed what is called a multi-agency action plan. And this, I think, is very critical, and it is something that can be shared. And through the same support, this multi-agency action plan was actually shared with all the 14 governors so that they could actually include or integrate blue economy in their CIDP. And this was done. Now, the next step that we are going is to have the CIDPs, the blue economy component of the CIDP, included in the annual development plan, and we'll now start implementing blue economy, because blue economy is still at a very high level, but we now need actions. And I think there is something, a classical example that can be borrowed from the Lake Region Economic Bloc through the support that has been given through the FCDO. I think you have said time is short, or I have...
No, yes, thank you very much, Dr. Ari. We appreciate that. And it's great to hear that blue economy is now included in many of the county's CIDPs, and that we can see a more collaborative engagement with the regional economic blocks. Now over to you, Ms. Victoria Shabula, knowing that you're from the AECF. We recognize that AECF is currently implementing an investment in women in blue economy. So what have you seen as the role of the private sector in steering, one, gender equality, but also promoting inclusive gender roles at the center of the blue economy agenda?
Thank you. And for every one of you who is wondering who AECF is, we are the Africa Enterprise Challenge Fund, and we invest in commercial enterprises that have business models that are oriented towards rural and marginalized communities. And we work to expand the horizon of economic opportunities for the people who, for no reason of their own, are trapped in poverty. We believe in market-based approaches. We believe in deploying development capital to catalyze further private sector investments into the areas that so much need capital today. So to speak about the current program that we are implementing in Kenya and how that is enhancing gender equality. So investing in women in blue economy is really seeking to present economic growth opportunities for women that intersect with all of the subsectors and value chains in the clean economy. I like when Waziri speaks, and he is not just talking about fisheries and aquaculture and tourism, what we've known, actually looking at marine renewable energy, seabed mining, and talking to us about the potential that that hosts. So we are seeking to surface women who are entrepreneurs, have innovations, business models, but what they are really lacking is resources to scale that, to expand their businesses. Where we're also seeking to support women in the entire spectrum of the MSME ecosystem, the micro enterprise. How do you get that woman who is sourcing for fish in the morning to go and sell to have that capital? How are you supporting that medium enterprise to be able to bring in a technology that hasn't been here before, but if they had the resources for it, they are able to expand the opportunities for their community. And you asked me the question around how private sector can support gender equality. And I want to say this because I'm passionate about it. Gender equality is a destination, and we all are really seeking to get there, a society where women have equal opportunity. And when we think about the role that the private sector can play in these different stations that we need to arrive at, because we won't get there to an equal world today. This program is about helping private enterprises to know how to better hire women. It is to actually help private enterprises to work with women, not just as off-takers, of the fish that the women are going to sell as fishmongers, but having the women access productive assets, for example, cages, so that they become fish farmers, because there is actually more money at the fish farming level compared at the frying level, where most of them are operating presently. But how do we get more women to also actually be processing and packaging the fish and being the ones that are running businesses alongside the male counterparts? We are also working on supporting the issues relating to gender norms that have held back our women, for example, the sex for fish issues. But it is actually that the private sector needs to know that they have the capacity to bring in women at decision-making levels, hire them at managerial levels, because when they do that, this actually translates to better norms, better practices in the communities.
Thank you, Victoria. You've actually provoked the chairman here on a question, so it's just an add-on to this, and it's a follow-on, if you wouldn't mind, just for 30 seconds, to explain how women can access information on this AECF-funded program, one, and how they submit their proposals, especially considering if you're looking at it as SMEs, is there support available for them to write their proposals and submit them? Tough question, I know.
For a 1-minute video. Yeah?
From the chair? Okay, yes. So whilst they pull up the video, if technical team can assist in pulling up the video from AECF, Chair, if you will allow me, I'll move on to the next panelist and then we'll come back to that question.
Sorry, I don't want to be the moderator. I just thought that maybe you can still be explaining a bit of that question as they put up the video before you move to the next person instead of cutting.
Yes.
So just maybe exemptions given.
Great. So the Investing in Women in Kenya's Blue Economy is a program that is presently running, and we actually have an opportunity for financing that's open as we speak. This current window is actually financing the small businesses, so women that are looking for 1 million Kenya shillings all the way to 6 million shillings. You must already be running a business within the blue economy sector, and it is agnostic. You could be in
strengthened this time. Thank you.
Asante sana, CS, for that support. I think it's critical that national and county continue to work together, and this is a clear illustration of that support. Do we still have the video up, or do we move on to...
Before I started the company, Great Lakes Feeds, I was doing fish cage farming. I had 10 cages, that was in the year 2016. So as I was doing this cage farming, I met some challenges, such as getting feeds and also getting the fingerlings.
Rio Fish is a for-profit company that works with rural communities to transform their lives through fish. Our focus groups are youth and women specifically because these are the underserved members of the fish value chain.
Why I applied to investing in women in blue economy in Kenya is because I have some passion for women. Women are almost everything in our community here. They are the ones who buy food, they are the ones who cook, they are the ones who take care of their family, the children, they are the ones who knows if school fees has been paid or not.
We are 60% women-owned, women-led, and we are mostly serving women. So I felt, and I still feel, that we fit squarely into what they're trying to do. And we're really looking to empower women, specifically in this value chain. So we are hoping that by the end of this program, at least 60% of the people we are buying fish from are women or women-owned.
worth 343 million when you look at it from at country scale, what we are doing. So, and it's projected to, the demand of this protein is projected to increase more and more. So we could be intervening on other issues like capital, all this, but the really issue is the protein. Because farmers are incurring a lot of cost on production cost. They are doing about 70, 80% on feed alone. And it's
So
becoming
this
a
is-
serious barrier, and that's what we are doing.
Sorry to have interrupted, Juma. Just for clarity, you're encouraging people to raise flies. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so have you talked to AECF? I'm seeing a connection here already with regards to supporting development of women participating in the blue economy value chain, for example, and projects. But let me not preempt any further discussions. So we've done our first round of panelist discussions and questions. I see very many people writing notes. So I'm hoping now we can move to the plenary, noting time. May I request that you introduce yourself, make your question as succinct as possible or straightforward, and who you are pointing that question to. So we have 2 roaming mics, Barbara and the other lady. Maybe you can raise your hand and show them. Oh, we already have 3 hands. So I will take those 3 questions and then we'll answer them.
Thank you so much. My name is Francis Asuna. I'm a consultant and also the chief officer for Kisumu County, in charge of blue economy. My question is in terms of studies and also issues of research and development. Cases of upwelling in the lake, especially the women, they find themselves so helpless. What can you do? And also in terms of AECF, the issue whether we have the funding component in terms of environmental studies. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I am Governor Andrew Mwadime, Taita Taveta. My earlier speaker, actually, he read my mind in the first question. The second question is, in Taita Taveta, we have 2 lakes, Lake Jipe and Lake Chele, and they are unique on their own. I do appreciate the little you did on blue economy to my country. But if you go to Lake Chala, absolutely there is nothing. You go to our good brothers, neighbor, Tanzania, they have done a lot. But in my side, Taita Taveta, there is nothing which I can talk a lot of blue economy. Despite having magnificent, beautiful topology, because even in the hills, we have some few dams here and there. But I appreciate what you did to the youth and women on those small ponds, which are really doing very good. But on blue economy, Taita Taveta was not really captured. And I think we are among these counties which have this blue economy. And then in the future, we should also think about the blue and the green economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Was that a question you were posing to any of our panelists? Governor? I think it was an observation. Okay, and then we have another hand.
Thank you. I'm Gideon Mungaro, Governor Kilifi. I was wondering, SEF and the CS Blue Economy, on this issue, because when we were in Kwale the other day, this question also came up, and I know the CS said they will be sending the PS, but I was wondering if there's a way to have a day workshop or something where you can bring all the...
Sorry, Governor, can you bring your mic closer?
I was wondering if we can bring a sort of a day workshop where our teams from Blue Economy can come to be sensitized on how to engage the women on this program so that some people are not marginalized. Thank you.
Asante, I think those are the first 3 questions, and it's clear who those were directed to. So we'll start with you, Bwana Waziri. We said we'll start with 3 and then the next ones. Yes, thank you, Senator.
Okay, thank you very much. I think some I have already responded to, like the one on the 1 billion fund. Because we launched on 3rd of August, so we'll have a program to make sure that the key people move to the counties to do the awareness. That also includes the project that we launched last week on marine conservation. The first question was talking about studies and research on the issue of upwelling in Lake Victoria. Yes, I think in Lake Victoria we've had the cage fish farming, which has been done for quite some time. And last year we had losses. You know, a lot of the fish died. I think the fishermen lost almost $1 billion. And then we were able to support them again with fingerlings, 2 million fingerlings. But again, there has been challenges. We have a comprehensive report on the issues around the lake, which I was planning when we meet the governors in the lake region. We would be sharing some of the issues. But clearly, it's been running consistently that there is low oxygen, which is attributed to many other issues, including pollution and other external factors that I want to have a discussion with the counties and multi-agency institutions so that we can be able to see how we can have a way forward, because some of the actions will go beyond the ministry so that we are able to make sure that we support the fishermen. Some of the issues that have been observed have been to do with excitement. I think when people saw the cage fishing was very lucrative, they went beyond the specifications, because some of the cages had specifications on how much fish you can have, but people went beyond. So I think, I'm sure the CC member that has asked this question will be very key for this kind of discussion. But yes, we have a report, and we would wish to share this report with the various counties and multi-agency. As regards to Lake Jipe and Lake Chala, I agree with the governor, there's potential. That potential has not been properly exploited. And as we agreed, Governor, it is the next frontier that the ministry and the county government will be embarking on. I know in one of the lakes, there's an issue with the level of the water. Sometimes it is like there's some blockage somewhere, but those are issues that we will take on board when we actualize our appointment and we are able to discuss this among other issues in your county. That will also include the blue and the green. So we will do the blue, then you can introduce the green, and we can take up together.
Wonderful.
So I think those are the issues that have been raised.
Thank you, Waziri.
And I think even as we go along, we need to, maybe at the end of this discussion, I may need to ask you for maybe 3 minutes, so I can talk about some of the other issues that may not come from the questions.
Noted. We'll ask indulgence from the chair. Maybe, Vicky, you wanted to add something, and Madam Kamara?
So I'll be very quick. Around whether AECF would finance environmental studies, no. Except where it's actually about how that can be addressed through a private sector model, because we are all about the private sector presenting the solutions. But I know there are very many partners in here that are listening to you, and that is in line with their strategy. On how we get to sensitize the different counties on the opportunity and ensure no one is left behind, my colleague Cosmas is somewhere here. Where is Cosmas? Okay, can see.
He's in the back.
Cosmas, oh yes. Cosmas, their governors, is a project lead for investing in women blue economy, and he has a comprehensive plan, and with the support of the ministry through the CS, we are going to be coming to your counties. We are going to do roadshows, and we are going to assure that the marketing strategies we employ this time get to go in the nooks and crooks of the especially micropreneurs, and that your trade officers, your blue economy people will get to be involved in actually disseminating this information. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Vicky. I believe the governors have their teams on standby ready to talk to Cosmas. So be on standby, Cosmas. I see we have another hand up from the plenary.
Yes, I think mine, my name is Martin Olo. I work Sumo County as Director of Environment and Climate Change. I would really think that as we are thinking about blue economy, we should also think about the environment, because without sustainable environment, we may not be able to sustain our lakes or our waters to be able to sustain our economy. So alongside, as money is being allocated for businesses in the blue economy, we look at how do we sustain our waters, including sanitations, including climate change issues, and we must also understand our waters are also acting as carbon sinks. At the same time, our waters are also the providers of the oxygen that we need most. So as we go along that, let us also think, how do we sustain our environment to sustain our waters? Thank you.
Great, thank you. I think that's a question that maybe IFAD will be able to give some information on. I see we have a question already.
Yes, Dado Godana, the governor of Tana River. Mine is in line with probably what Governor Mwadime has said about the potential that lies in Taita, but mine is about the potential that lies in Tana. We've had so much.
We can't hear you clearly, sorry,
We've
Governor.
had so much talks about the sea and Lake Victoria, and now Governor is talking about Lake Jipe and Chala and those. But we've never had a conversation that is talking about the huge potential that lies in the River Tana, which in our earlier conversations, we have profiled it properly that we also host close to 150 oxbow lakes, stretching from the north to the sea. In fact, we have this impression, or probably is a reality, that one of the biggest oxbow lakes in Africa is actually in Tana River. So mine is to just to emphasize to Waziri, as you go to round 2, then you bring Tana on board. Secondly, which is a bit crucial, I know we have demonized floods so much that every time there are floods, there's a lot of negative publicity about them, that probably they are destroying things, they're doing what. And so the effort by national government has been, let us put more dams to control this flooding and all that. While us, as people there, we know that these floods come with so many benefits. They are the ones that sustain the ecosystem in turn. The whole of that biodiversity, to that Ramsar, to the interaction between the river and the sea, is such a very important biodiversity that needs to be protected. And in fact, the sector of agriculture, the whole of the subsistence agriculture in Tana River has already collapsed. That's why probably there's a lot of effort, again, by the same government to try and mobilize relief food to come and feed us, including the governor. So, so mine is to probably invoke the Waziri's attention that probably we need serious interventions at the level of national government to properly get it right on how we should approach Tana. Probably stop the damming upstream to allow for downstream recovery and other interventions, including the environment and the rest of the things, to be restored. That is what I wanted to say, Waziri.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you. I think we had one more question. Yes. Oh.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anne Nalo. I'm an economic advisor and PFM and tax lead with the British High Commission. I have two questions, one to CS Vuria and one to Senator Faki. To CS Vuria, for development partners within your strategy and as you engage with county governments on the blue economy areas that are of focus for Kenya Kwanza, if I was to ask, just list perhaps top three, because I suppose the sector is expansive, that would be looking for development partner funding, what would those be? Then to Senator Faki on the National Resource Benefits Sharing Bill. You've mentioned that the amendments that have been proposed are largely around the Commission on Revenue Allocation coming up with a formula on how resource sharing and the royalties sharing should be. So historically, for the Division of Revenue Bill, primarily the Commission on Revenue Allocation recommends, and then the Senate discusses, and sometimes, at least for the last formula, you don't take in those recommendations. So for this particular proposed amendment, would CRA's recommendations then be binding for inclusion within the bill, or is it up for discussion? Thank you.
Thank you. I think those are the three questions. We'll allow our panelists to answer those. We'll do one more round, and then we'll do a closing quick minute response round. So I know that there's a few more hands, and we'll come round to you. But for now, CS, would you like to answer? But would it be okay for Madam Kamara to start? Oh. Okay, since some were comments, I've been guided. We can have two more questions from the floor. The technical team is seeing the hands. So, Barbara, okay, there's a hand over there. There was one here, and then one in the middle here. But you have to make a decision on who. Go ahead, Madam.
Thank you. I'm Henriette Geiger, the EU ambassador in Kenya. And the EU has a program called Go Blue, because we feel that the potential of the blue economy is largely ignored in Kenya. And Kenya shares that with most of African coastal countries. I heard many times around the world, why is it that in Africa the countries are turning their backs to their coast? This is, I cannot explain that. You have this most beautiful coastline, and there's a tremendous potential that is completely unexploited. So what is needed here is a vision, and the CS was talking about the blue economy strategy. So it is necessary because we are all competing in the same space. So for example, for the climate summit that is coming up, I fully agree with the previous speaker. The environment and climate needs to look at blue economy as well. So what is your plan to bring blue economy in the climate summit, the Africa Climate Summit that is happening now? And Kenya has agreed, the Kenyan government has agreed to host an Africa-wide investment conference in blue economy next year. How will Kenya get ready for this? Because you have a unique opportunity to showcase the potential, the enormous potential of blue economy in Kenya. And in my mind, what needs to happen is that you have an integrated approach where you look at tourism, you look at culture, you look at fisheries, aquaculture, and also the green economy, and like that have one marketing concept, and all the counties need to join up to market themselves together. We have done similar things to help with integrated concepts in the Caribbean with great success. So one county alone cannot do it. And sometimes even several countries get together in one marketing concept. So tourism nowadays has changed a lot and can be very well integrated into environmental sustainability. So the EU really wants to invest heavily in the blue economy because we see this as a key for jobs and growth in Kenya. Thank you very much.
Madam Ambassador? Oh, yes, we have another ambassador.
Good afternoon. I'm Joris van Bommel. I'm the Chargé d'Affaires from the Netherlands Embassy. And it looks like I have a little bit of the same question, but I continue a little bit because I think it's about that unlocking that potential, whether you look at that from the ocean or whether you look at it from the rivers, as you mentioned. Taking it back from the sessions from this morning, both the American ambassador, but also your president, talking about how can we unlock that potential, which is important. But I would like to ask the question about the private sector. How are you going to make, or what are you doing, and I'm asking the question to the CS, but also to the governor, what are we going to do to make those potentials bankable? What are you doing to make sure that we get investors? We will have, as the Netherlands, a trade mission coming in on port development in late September. We will have other discussions with our private sector, also with other EU member states in Lake Turkana. But we would like to see what are you doing really to make sure that we get the private sector in? Why Kenya? Why your county? What has to be done to get that investment done? And I think that's something to get it a little bit bigger and to really to start unlocking that potential. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's more than enough questions now, and it's always to see us. The chairman has requested. Okay, go ahead.
Probably you have your back on my side, so you're blinded, but that's okay. My name is James Katule from the Commission on Revenue Allocation. Listening to the experts on the blue economy, you get to hear that the number of things that we're talking about, fisheries, tourism, agriculture, renewable energy, sea-based mining, and even the transport. Some of the things sit squarely in the national government. Some of them sit in the county government, and therefore we may need a multi-sectoral, intergovernmental approach to that. How do we put that in the mix so that we get to unlock this potential? And this is to the CS. Thanks.
Thank you. So we'll start with a response from CS. I'll ask you to go last so that you can also give your additional 3 minutes at the end. And if any of the panelists during our speed round of just about a minute, if there's anything you'd like to add. But let's answer those that last round of questions.
I'm not a panelist, but I think I needed to say a few things. I wanted to talk about 2 things, actually 3, because now I heard about private sector, and I think we need to address this issue. First of all, I think one of the things that is coming out is that there is need for partnerships. We really need to work together as partners, because when I listen to Victoria talk about funding opportunities, funding is one aspect of the issue. We need training, we need capacity building, we need exposure for the farmers. So it includes all of these. So just one partner cannot do it alone. So we really need to be coordinated and work as a team if we are to get this right. In terms of private sector, we need to be clear. The private sector is never going to invest in things that they think they will not make profits from. It is the productivity, it is the enabling environment that drives the private sector to invest in certain areas. Why am I saying this? We can talk from January to December. If we do not create the enabling environment for the private sector to invest, they will not come in. If we do not support the communities to improve their productivity, that will enable the private sector to make profits, they will not come in. So, in short, what I'm trying to say is that if we are to get the sector right, we really need to work together in partnership. The UN cannot do it alone, the private sector cannot do it alone, the government cannot do it alone. We really need to be coordinated, and then we can get it right.
Thank you. Governor, yes?
Just to make some points on the blue economy and issues of climate change. I think what I want to point out is that what came out of COP27, which was held at Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, was the fact that funding should be given to countries that have been affected by climate change, and mostly the coastal community. And for the ambassador here, I entirely agree with you, we need. But most importantly, and for the CS, we also need to look at our laws and make them investor-friendly. I see no reason why Seychelles or Mauritius, a lot of the fishing, the blue economy, people in the fishing sector invest in Mauritius and Seychelles, while Kenya has a bigger coastline and a bigger potential. So I think, CS, that is something we need to look at what it is they're doing, and we also adopt that.
Thank you very much. I think most of the issues needed my intervention. The first thing that has been raised is the issue of environment. And I want to say that we have a robust program on environment in the blue economy sector. Part of what we are working with partners are issues of conservation. Last week, I was able to launch a 2 billion coast conservation project, which is also going to work on issues of environment. Away from that, there has already other efforts that have existed, and I think in the coastline, we have a lot of programs focusing on mangrove conservation. And in fact, the first NGO or local organization which was recognized worldwide and accessed carbon credit was a mangrove conservation project. So I think we have quite a lot of intervention in environment, and we are going to mobilize many more partners so that we can scale up these particular efforts. I think the issue of Tana River, I want to agree with His Excellency the Governor Major. If you look at other countries, they have a lot of investment along rivers. If you go to Livingstone in Zambia, you will see that they have even hotels and maritime vessels around the river. If you go to Congo, you will find also that River Congo has a lot of investments, Egypt and many others. As I said earlier, you see the blue economy that we are discussing is not the blue economy that exists now, but is the blue economy that we need to build together. So there will be areas where we have made progress. There will be areas that we need to put more time and resources. And that is why His Excellency was able to put this as a standalone State Department so that we can get an opportunity to discuss it and to invest in it. I think the other question from a colleague in the British, my sister, I can't remember, she had wanted me to talk about the partnership. I think we have quite a number of partners right now. The EU in Blue, Go Blue project, the JICA, where we have worked on patrolling and surveillance. IFAD is here, we are working on the area of aquaculture, and we invite more partners, the World Bank and many more that we are working together. And basically, we also want to say to our partners that even though we want to strengthen partnership, we also want to identify together the key priorities that we can work together so that we don't find a situation, and it is already exists in some areas where you find there are a number of organizations that are working without the input of county government and the input of the national ministry. I think if we are to achieve collaboration, then we need to work together in that manner. The EU ambassador posed a question, why we have not been able to inspire our blue economy and benefit from it. I think that's the more reason now we have woken up, because even in fisheries alone, we have not invested enough in the exclusive economic zone. And that is one area that we need to inspire industrial fishers so that we can have more investments. Alongside that, Ambassador, we have had a meeting on the Africa Climate Summit, including yesterday, and blue economy is going to be very prominent at the high-level panel and also at a breakaway session. And I'm sure next week the PS, State Department of Fisheries and Blue Economy, will be reaching out to partners so that we can plan together and have some presentations during the sessions. The other, I think the conference next year, we are on schedule, we're working with you. I don't want to say much on that one. Whether the projects are bankable, you see, first of all, let me now tell everybody and all Kenyans, the fisheries and blue economy is not a service sector. This is not a service like the other areas. This is an investment sector, and therefore we want more private sector. What the government is doing is to create an enabling environment. For example, part of the regulations that we have sent for publication relate to licensing, how we license, and this licensing regimes for artisanal fishermen, for industrial fishermen, but also part of the infrastructure that we have identified in the blue space. We rely on the private sector to partner with government. For example, in Liwatoni, where we are doing a fish hub and ecosystem processing unit, that is going to be run by the private sector. the fish port in Shimoni, where KPA will be spending 2.6 billion. The rest of the running will be by the private sector. We have also looked at the potential in shipping and maritime. If you look at Lake Victoria, for example, they have a shipyard. We have a shipyard in Mombasa. None of these shipyards can do dry docking. That is an area we want to work with the private sector. And part of what we are doing is also to enhance maritime and transport regulations, which also we are gazetting, so that we are able to work with shipping lines to inspire local businessmen to venture into what we call the cabotage.
Oh.
We see the port of Mombasa, which is now growing into a major transshipment hub. It does not have the input of local shipping lines. So if you have your cargo in Mombasa, there's no way you can take it to Lamu by sea. So that is what we want to cure through a cabotage policy, cabotage regulations, and in November, we are bringing the region. We are doing a regional conference so that we can speak in one voice on matters cabotage.
Wonderful. Thank you, Waziri. It sounds like there's some large potential investments down in the pipeline. I will just ask Senator Faki to answer the questions on the revenue sharing agreements. I think that was raised by FCDO. I know that there was a question about the 3 projects, but maybe afterwards during the networking break. But over to you, Senator.
Yes, the contentious one is the one that shares revenue between the national government and the county governments. That is the formula that is normally set in place after every 5 years. So that one is different from the one that is being talked of in the National Resources Benefit Sharing Act. In the Act, the CRA will be given an opportunity to say how much, what is the percentage of the royalties that are going to be given for a specific sector of the blue economy. Whereas in the other one, it takes into consideration many factors, including population, geographical area, health, and so on and so forth. So this one will be different. This one, once CRA sets the parameters, then it will be done.
Thank you, Senator. Oh, that was succinct. Thank you, sir. So I think we've come to that point in the evening where we've unpacked as much as possible. I know Waziri has a lot more to add, and he has requested the indulgence of 1 minute, and Chair has agreed.
Before Waziri says, will you allow me 1 minute?
So Chair is saying he thought you had the minute. So, okay, why don't you finish off?
No, mine is just to say that although the government is doing a lot in terms of the blue economy, and our counties also are doing a lot, but still a lot needs to be done. For instance, Mombasa and Lamu, we don't have a passenger service. Mombasa and Shimoni, we don't have a passenger service for vessels.
A ferry?
Not ferry, a ship or...
So that sounds like a private sector opportunity.
Yeah, so we need this to be done as quickly as possible. Because, you know, in terms of the regional blocks, the coastal counties were the first to come up with a regional block. And the CS was the first chair of the of the Jumuiya Japan. And I can see 2 founder members are here with us. So we need to speed it up so that we can see the benefits of the blue economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I think there's a few other panelists who've challenged CS and our governors.
I think, Honorable Senator, with all due respect, you know, the cruise vessel plying Mombasa, Lamu, Kwale is not a government project. And this is one of the things I was saying. We are reaching out to private investors to venture into those kind of businesses. So right now we are working with our colleagues in tourism to see how we can be able to work with private sector in those cruise vessels. Unfortunately, the speed that you are looking for, I cannot determine because it's not a government project. What I wanted to say, moderator, there has been an issue which has been raised here on issues of aquaculture, and especially on protein. I remember last month I launched the company called Tunga Nutrition in industrial area. They were adding a line, you know, for fish feeds. And one of the issues they raised was that they have to get soya. You know, they have to import. So I think this is an area that our farmers can do and bring down the price. But the most crucial is that we have a project that links marine and aquaculture. In Liwatoni, when it is fully operational, we will have bycatch. The bycatches will be very lucrative as fish feed, and that is why we are linking Liwatoni project and the Kabonyo Kanyagwal, the Center of Aquaculture, where we have already finalized the procurement, and we should be able to begin that project anytime in Kisumu County. It's a 1 billion project by the government of Kenya and the government of Hungary. And our aim is to take the bycatch from Liwatoni, then process it in the center, and of course with training, and that can then be able to be very good fish feed for our aquaculture farmers. Our estimation is that we'll be able to do like over 7 million fingerlings in Kabonyo, and therefore we will need a lot of the bycatch, which will also support aquaculture activities in the Mount Kenya region where we have Kiganjo and Sagana. So I thought I needed to tie in that connection, but it is real. I think there has been a lot of issues with the protein, and it is an issue we are addressing short-term and long-term. Otherwise, thank you very much. Our offices are open. We will come to the field, but anytime you feel free to raise your issues. We want to work with the county governments, and I want to thank the chair here who has been very critical in bringing the counties to the fold in terms of blue economy.
Thank you very much, Bwana Waziri. And that brings us to a close, so we'll be asking our chair to give the closing remarks. But before he begins, go ahead, sir. The COG Chairperson's Dinner celebrating and awarding Devolution Warriors will be held in the tent to, it says to my left. So in the tent on the left is the COG dinner, and it'll begin at 8 p.m. today. Over to you, Chairman.
Thank you, moderator. I think they need a round of applause. Indio, makofi kidogo. I know we are tired, but we have a job to do, and we must do the job. So thank you so much. Thank you, the panelists, Waziri, my chair, and all of you, our keynote speaker, and all the participants. I think there are quite a bit of take-homes that we have gotten from here. Is it okay? Or you are tired? I think those take-homes from what I'm seeing is that we need to work together, both levels of government, our development partners. We need to work in a coordinated way. I mean, we need to embrace more science in this sector. As we have said, it's still a completely new sector. Waziri, I was trying to tease you there whether we have got our national blue economy policy. But I think you told me still at the cabinet level. So you can understand that we need that to come out so that it can start guiding this sector. Because for us at the counties, it is always important that we align. The county blue economy policies must be aligned to the national blue economy policies. Waziri, I know that we were discussing, and because this is a discussant group, that we should not work in silos. If we work in silos, you can see it needs a multi-sectoral approach, and from some of the questions that we have been getting here, so that when we are aligned properly with all stakeholders involved, then it can go well. The Senate, the legislators, our county assemblies that will also need to mainstream whatever we'll be doing in terms of legislations, in terms of the partnerships that we want to build. I think those are quick take-homes. I know, a moderator, you'll be getting some notes, but we have seen the gaps where they are, and we need to move with speed to bridge those gaps. So again, I'll just call on our development partners that for us to push this sector rapidly forward, please, let's move very quickly to bridge those gaps that are there, even just as quickly as hastening our blue economy policy that was adopted from also the blue economy concept from the African Union that we are now trying to domesticate and make sure that it works for our people. Otherwise, asanteni, we didn't have a lot of time. There is more that we can speak, but I believe this is work in progress. Otherwise, thank you for all of you. Thank you, Waziri, and thank you people for being patient. We would have started at 3, but we started almost past 4, and yet you have been patient for us to cover this topic. Asanteni sana, God bless you, and we look forward to a very progressive and successful blue economy. I think you have already said we have been invited to the chairman's dinner. So because of, I think it's at 7. Is it at 7?
8.
Or it's at 8?
At 8.
So we may not have the luxury of going too far because it's just in, Yeah, it's 7. So it's just in the next 15 minutes. So karibuni, God bless all of you. Asanteni.
Me, I know they go.